Welcome, and welcome to some of our regularly online people joining us in person. Very excited. Very excited. Chevra, we began the story of the Meraglim and Rachav last week, and we made reference to Medrash Chuma that requires a deep amount of understanding before we can continue. And to that end, let's see it up on the screen and in the Maramakomas. I spent a little bit of time today just reorganizing this so that everything is where it needs to be. So all the Maramakomas are on the website, and we can do that, I think. There we go. Which makes it look a little cleaner. So we mentioned the Medrash, and I want to read it with you guys inside. So the Medrash says as follows. The Medrash is found at the beginning of Parsha Shlach, which is important because, as we pointed out last week, there is a difference between the Meraglim of Moshe and the Meraglim of Yehoshua. The Meraglim of Moshe fail miserably. They come back with a negative report, except for Kalev and Yehoshua. And the Meraglim of Yehoshua make their way to Eretz Canaan. They spend a strange time with Rachav Hazona, and then they leave. Right? Very strange. As Steen pointed out last week, it's peculiar. The whole thing is very peculiar. So let's take a look at the way that the Medrash Tanchuma learns this whole parsha. We should also point out that the Haftorah of Parsha Shlach is this parak in Yehoshua. Right? The Meraglim of Yehoshua are contrasted with Chazal, with the Meraglim of Moshe. Says the Medrash as follows: Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe shlach lecha anashim. So the Medrash quotes, this is the Medrash Tanchum, this is the Medrash of Rabbi Tanchum. Yelamdenu Rabbeinu, Rabbi teach us, Ma'u lefarish liyam hagadol kodim l'Shabbos shlosha yamim. Are you allowed to take a cruise 3 days before Shabbos? What's going on here? Says the Medrash, Kach shanu Rabbi Seinu, this is what we've heard. This is what we have a tradition we're taught. Ein mafligin es hasvina liyam hagadol shlosh yom kodem Shabbos bizman shu halach lemachlim rochel. You're not allowed to go for a cruise 3 days before Shabbos if you're planning on going to a distant land. Aval im mevakesh lefarish k'may mitzur letzidon, but if you're going a short distance, mutar lo lefarish afilu b'erev Shabbos, you can leave erev Shabbos. So this is the age-old question of leaving for vacation, like on an Erev Shabbos. Depends how far you go, right? You don't want to get yourself in a situation that you're going to be Mechal Shabbos. Okay. Mibnei she'adavar yadua she'kol she'hu yochel lelech mib'od yom. You need to know that you will be able to arrive while it's still daytime. Now, this halachic discussion has a very strange place here in a Medrash. Right? The Medrash Tanchuma is not a place for halachic discussions of Erev Shabbos excursions that you usually find in the context of a Mishnah. Nevertheless, says the Medrash, V'med dvarim amurim. What are we talking about here? B'shluchei harushus, with people that are going because they want to. What they're doing is not something that is forbidden. It is not something that is obligatory. It is something that they are allowed to do. Now, those of you that were here last week or caught up from last week will remember that was what the Balatanya referred to as a klippas noiga, as something that is in between the world of obligation and prohibition. There's a whole world, most of life is permissible. Says the Medrash, you're not allowed to go 3 days before Shabbos for something permissible. If you're planning on going for something that is just because you want to, you're going on vacation, that's when you're not allowed to go 3 days before Shabbos. But if you are there, if you are traveling as a shaliach mitzvah, mutar lo lefarish b'chol yom sheyirtzeh, leave whenever you want. Now, this is strange, because one would arguably have said that if you are going l'davar mitzvah, for a mitzvah, I don't know, you're going for the sake of pidyon shvuim, to redeem a captive, or if you are going to, go visit your Rebbe for the Shalosh Regalim. We have all of these cases in the Mishnah. And yet the Medrash is choosing the word shaliach mitzvah. Now, obviously, why shaliach? Because this is talking about Parshas Shlach, right? We want to know, this is where the Medrash is getting to, what is unique about a shaliach, an emissary, a messenger, somebody who is tasked with fulfilling a particular role. V'im haya shliach mitzvah, if it's a shliach mitzvah, mutar lo lefarish b'chol yom shir, so you can go whenever you want. Lama? Why? Mibnei shehu shliach mitzvah. Because he's a shliach mitzvah. Shliach mitzvah doiche es ha-Shabbos. Shliach mitzvah is doiche Shabbos. Now, that is a difficult halachic statement. Is that true for everything? Questionable. V'chein ata meitzah b'sukkah. You find the same thing with sukkah. That if you're a shliach mitzvah, you don't have to sit in the sukkah. Okay. Sheshaninu shluchim mitzvah p'turim min ha-sukkah. Shluchim mitzvah don't have to sit in sukkah. Okay. She'ein lecha chaviv livnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu k'shliach mitzvah. There is nothing more beautiful to Hashem than shliach mitzvah. Shu mishtalech la'asais mitzvah. He is sent off to do a mitzvah. V'noisin nafshay kadesh yatzliach b'shlichusayim, and he endangers his life. He gives up the safety and security of being at home. He's endangering himself so that his mission will be successful. Ve'ein lecha b'nei adam shenishtalchu la'asais mitzvah v'noisin nafsham la'atzliach b'shlichusan ka'oisen shnei shluchim sheshalach Yehoshua ben Nun. And there are no better paradigms of a shliach mitzvah that is risking his life for the sake of a mitzvah, for being an emissary of a mitzvah, other than the two people that Yehoshua ben Nun sent. Yeshua's two Meraglim. Now there's a lot to unpack here. Before we unpack, let's just see how the Medrash builds this out. Shenemar, the pasuk says, our pasuk at the beginning of the parak, Vayishlach Yehoshua ben Nun min hashitim. He sends his messengers min hashitim. We're going to talk about that word min hashitim as well. Umihayu, who are these guys? This is what we said last week. Shana Rabbeinu elu Pinchas v'Kalev. It's Pinchas and Kalev. Pinchas ben Elazar ben Aaron HaKohen and Kalev ben Yefuneh, coming from the Shvatim of Levi and Yehuda, respectively, which, as we pointed out last week from the Shlah, is Eliyahu and Mashiach ben David. These two characters from these two Shvatim. V'halchu v'nasu nafsam v'yitzlichu b'shlichusam. And they went and endangered their lives in order to be successful in their mission. Okay. And then they went off, says the pasuk, that they went off cheresh. Cheresh. What does cheresh mean? Discreet. Clandestine. Quietly. And the Medrash says something bizarre that linguists in the room will be bothered by. Medrash is bothered by this too. Ma'u cheresh, what does cheresh mean? Cheresh lemar melamed shasan atzman kadarim. That they disguise themselves as potters. Potters, right? It's a potter. A guy that carries cheres. Clay cheres. That cheres is with a samach. Clay cheres. Pottery is with a samach. So they disguise themselves as potters, like Harry Potter, right? One of my Talmidim pointed out to me that last week was Halloween, which was the 40th yard site of Lily and James Potter, in accordance with the Sugi and Harry Potter. Nevertheless, right? I don't know if there's anybody that doesn't say Tachnim because of it. So they disguise themselves as potters. Okay. And they would shout and say as they came into Yericho, Hare Kederos, look, we have pots. Call me anybody that wants, come and purchase a pot. Kol kach lama, why? Yargish bahem adam, so that no one will notice them. Now, that's a bizarre statement. It's one thing to walk in as a potter. It's another thing to shout and announce, look, anybody want pots? Well, who are you? No, we're people that sell pots. That is not discreet. In fact, that is the opposite of the pshat in the pasuk. Right? That is indiscreet. That is not what's going on. Lekach ksiv cheres, koribe cheres. So it says discreet, but we should read it as pottery. Kadesha lo yomer b'nei adam meraglim, so that nobody should say that they're spies. V'yelchu beis isha zaynosh marachav v'yishku sham. And they went to the house of Rachav and they slept there. Okay. Amda v'kibla isam. So she got up and she received them. Hirgish b'hem melech Yericho, melech the king of Yericho, finds out about this. And he finds out that they're coming to investigate the whole land. Shenemar, as the pasuk says, "Vayomer lamelech Yericho." They told the king of Yericho, "Hinei anashim, here's these guys." Kevan shehalchu lebaksham, ma'asar Rachav. When he goes to find them, what did Rachav do? Not loisam lehat minam. She decided to hide them. We saw this last week and in Rashi. Amar la Pinchas. Pinchas says, this is the more fleshed out conversation. Remember, because the pasuk says, "V'tatz binoi." She hid him, only one of them. Which one? Kalev. Kalev is the one that's hid. Says Pinchas, "Ani kain." I'm a kain. It's true. V'kahanim nimshelu lamalachim. And kahanim are compared to angels. Shenemar, because the pasuk says, "Ki yisir se kain yishmeru das." V'sari yivakshim mipiu ki malach Hashem tzvaka. So pasuk in Malachi says that the lips of the Kain Yishmeru Das will guard knowledge. You should ask Torah from his mouth, Ki Malach Hashem Tzavakosu, because he is an angel of Hashem. By the way, this pasuk is Sifsei Kain Yishmeru Das. Those words Sifsei Kain became the name of one very famous Jewish book and one less famous Jewish book. Sifsei Kain is the name of the Shach. Right, that's the name of the book, the Shach. On Shulchan Aruch, the pasuk is Sifsei Kain. It's known as the Shach. There's also the Shach. That's the Shach on Shulchan Aruch. There's also a Shach, different guy, writing on Chumash. The Shach on Chumash is one of the Talmidim of the Arizal. But Sifsei Kain Yishmeru Das, the Gemara tells us that if your Rebbe is Doime L'Malach Hashem, that's when you should ask to learn Torah from him. And if it's not like Malach Hashem, don't learn from him. It's high expectations for Rabbi. But nevertheless, says Pinchas, I'm a malach because I'm a kohen. V'amalach roitze nira roitze ene nira. And a malach, if he wants to be seen, he's visible. And if he doesn't want to be seen, he's invisible. V'chein hanevim nimshelu lemalachim. And neviim, prophets, are also compared to malachim. Shekach Amar b'Moshe, it says about Moshe v'yishlach malach b'yotzienu. Sends a malach and took us out of Mitzrayim. Who took us out of Mitzrayim? Hashem, v'loi malach. So what's v'yishlach malach v'yotzienu? That's Moshe. Moshe was the malach that took us out of Mitzrayim. V'chi malach, who says the Medrash? Moshe, yeah. Wasn't a malach, was Moshe. So it comes out that Moshe was a malach. And Pinchas was a malach because he's a kohen. Good, lots of malachim. You find out the Nevi'im are called Malachim as well. The pasuk says as well, Vayal Malach Hashem min ha Galgal el ha ba'chim Vayomer el esem Mitzrayim. Pasuk says in Shoftim as well, Va'aloi Pinchas, this is Pinchas. Elamikan shenikru Nevi'im Malachim. You know that the Nevi'im are called Malachim. Okay. V'chein atamaytze b'isha shalmanach shomer isha Elohim ba elai umari ke mar'eh malach Hashem nara. There was a guy that came and he looked like a malach. V'chein omer b'yom hachaga malach Hashem malachas Hashem la'am leimar. All of these places halamata shenikru hanavim malach. The Nevi'im are called malachim. V'chein omer, and the pasuk says vayihu Malavim Malachi B'Malachi Ha'Elokim Uvaizin Dvarim and Divrayamim. Same thing. Lefichach Amar La Pinchas Ani Kai Kshani Roitze Nira Kshani Roitze Any Nira. When I want to be seen, I am seen. When I don't want to be seen, I'm not seen. Minayin shalai hid mina el lekalev. Well, how do you know that it was Kalev that she hid? Shenemar v'tikacha isha shneha anashim v'titzpanai. She took the two people and hid him. V'titzpanai. Doesn't say that she hid them, hid him. How hard did these tzaddikim work in order to do their mission? Amazing, right? They were willing to sacrifice their lives. But the messengers of Moshe, they were wicked. Minayin, how do you know? Moshe sent them to scout out the land. And they came and they complained to the whole people. To say negative things about the land. That's what the pasuk says. Moshe sent messages. This whole thing is bizarre. There's like a billion questions here. What are we talking about? Angels? Pinchas is an angel. And then Moshe is an angel. And Rachav only hides Kalev, but doesn't hide Pinchas, because he's a Kohen. And a Kohen is an angel. And there is a big differentiation between Moshe's guys and Yehoshua's guys. Moshe's guys are Rishaim. Why? Because what would you expect? What should the Medrash say? Because they came back and they convinced the Jewish people not to go to the land of Israel. Right? They scuttled the plan for the entirety of Jewish history. Now, Medrash says, why are they bad guys? Because Moshe sent them. But what did they not do? The mission that they were sent for. There is something wrong in their mission, in their understanding of their mission, in the fulfillment of their mission. They came back and they turned the people against Moshe.
They were supposed to find Rafa.
Well, we'll get to it. We'll explain what that is in a moment. But the Medrash is pointing out here that what they messed up with, the place that they so devastatingly, so deviously, so evilly acted, was in them not fulfilling their mission. Which mission? The one that Moshe gave them. And
stated.
What?
Which is not stated that was the mission.
Doesn't say. Doesn't say what the mission was. Meaning within the context of this Medrash. Yehoshua's guys, Kalev and Pinchas, they are incredible because they were Moshe Nefesh for their mission. Now, let's clear some of the air. The Rambam writes in the Moreh Nevuchim that a malach is
vision, apparition.
A shaliach. Malach is a messenger.
Because it's somebody who walks, basically. It's from the same
Well,
word. Right?
So it means somebody that does the thing that you do, right? Like malacha. Nashim malacha. Somebody that does something. So where the pasuk says, "Vayishlach Yaakov malachim lefanav," Yaakov sends malachim to his brother Esav. Which malachim? Pshat in the pasuk, messengers. Malach means a messenger. We have many messengers in the world. Hashem has messengers that are corporeal, that are physical, that are human. That's a Malach Hashem. People have messengers too. I can send a message to you through a Malach. Now, the definition of a good Malach that does a good job, is somebody that is dedicated, conscientious, and interested in fulfilling the task. That's a good malach. They're doing a good job. The Ramban points out when HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to the Jewish people, I'm going to send a malach in front of you, like this medrash, that Moshe Rabbeinu was the malach. Moshe Rabbeinu was the malach. Which malach? So, put together Ramban in Sefer Shmos and Rav Kook in Ayah. We're not going to see this inside right now, just in the interest of time. I'll send you the Maramakum. I'll put the Maramakum on the sheet if you want. There is a malach, which means a desire for HaKadosh Baruch Hu in this world. That's called Hamalach HaGoel L'Simi Kol Ra. Who's that? The Malach HaGoel L'Simi Kol Ra, the angel that protected me from all evil. So, sometimes, who says those words? Hamalach HaGoel L'Simi Kol Ra Yivarachas Anarim. That's what Yaakov says to Ephraim and Menashe, right? Hamalach HaGoel L'Simi Kol Ra Yivarachas Anarim. There is an angel that protected me from all evil. Should bless these children. Mikarei b'hem Shemina should be called by my name. So Cook points out that there is a Malach HaGoel, that there is a force, a desire of Hashem in the world to protect, to redeem the Jewish people, to ensure that the Jewish people fulfills our destiny in the world. There's a Malach, there is a force in the world. For 40 years in the desert, says the Ramban, that Malach had a name, his name was Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu was the emissary of God in the world that made sure that the Jewish people were taken care of and protected, that we were fulfilling our goal and our mission and our vision. A Navi is called a Malach because a Navi is somebody that is in fulfillment of what Hashem is sending them to do. Hashem says to the Navi, go and do, in Israel they would say X, right? Go and do X. So then you go and do X. You're a Malach. And if you don't, then you're a bad Malach. Moshe sends Malachim. He sends Shaliach. The goal of those Shlichim is to go to Eretz Yisrael and do that which Moshe Rabbeinu wants them to do. And they failed at it because they came back and said, we disagree with the mission. Abort mission. Yehoshua's Malachim did everything that he wanted them to do. Now, what's the deal with this pottery thing? So I want to show you Chidush Arim. We'll get back to the Shem Yishmael in a few minutes.
Hold on, because Yehoshua was better at being a leader. He was Mashiach ben Yosef, while Moshe was better at like the Torah stuff and giving up the Torah because he was Mashiach ben David.
So that's a huge part of it, but not yet. Hold that. Hold that for now. What's the pottery thing? So we need a halacha. Pottery is strange. The din is that something that comes in contact with something impure. If I have a cup that comes in contact with something impure, that cup will become impure, right? That's a halacha in Tumah and Tara in general. So if I have a Kiddush cup and a dead lizard is on the floor, and I put the Kiddush cup next to the dead lizard and it's touching it, the Kiddush cup becomes tummy. How do you fix that? How do you get rid of the tumah? You have to tovel it. Take it to the mikveh, you tovel it. That's good for metal. But a kli cheres, if a kli cheres becomes tameh, then how do you fix a kli cheres from being tameh?
Fire.
You can't. You have to destroy it. It cannot lose its tumah. That's a chumrah with a kli cheres. But there is a kula of a kli cheres as well.
What's cheres?
Pottery.
Of any pottery? Okay.
Pottery, meaning
Okay.
pottery,
ceramic.
right,
Okay.
something,
Not metal. Okay.
right. If it's made of earthenware, you have to destroy it. But there is a uniqueness of a kli cheres. Says the Chidush Arim, this is quoted in the Likutei Yehuda, which was written in the last 2 generations ago, more or less, pulling together everything that all of the Gerer Rebbes said from the Chidush Arim until pretty much the Pnei Menachem. But the Chidush Arim has the Chidush like this. The din is she'en kli cheres metame ela mitoicha v'lo mibachutz. A kli cheres is unique in that it can only become tameh if the thing that's making it tameh is inside of it, not outside. Meaning a kli cheres that has a dead lizard that touches it from the outside is not tameh. Why? Shekain kol chomer acher hu bal chashivus mesuyames b'vnei atzma. Because every other material has importance. Metal is important, right? Gold is important, silver is important, right? Glassware, that's important. Glass is shaylev, it's klichas, okay. He says, "Va'al kein yesh lo chashivus, kedei lekabel tuma mikol tzdadim." Therefore, it's a kli. It has importance. It has an identity, and therefore, if that identity comes in contact with impurity, it becomes impure. But a kli cheres is unique. Because what is a kli cheres made up of? What is pottery made up of? Clay, which is dirt, right? It's from the ground. The only chashivas, the only importance, the only identity that kli cheres has is in that it can have something inside of it. It's totally utilitarian. In the ancient world, kli cheres was disposables, right? It wasn't important. It was only important for the task that it needs to achieve. Aval cherish k'shela atzmai harei einu ela offer. Earthenware itself is just dirt. Ve'ein lo kol chashivas ve'erech. And it doesn't have any value. Prat lezeshu asa l'shamish beis kivu l'davar ma, except for the fact that it's useful for something. Ve'al kein kol chashivusai mitztamtzemes arak b'soicha, and therefore all of its importance is only that which is inside of it. The Meraglim of Yehoshua, says the Chidush Arim, lived like kli cheres. Their job was, meaning their identity was defined by the role that they played. Which means that they were excellent malachim. They were excellent shlichim. They were achieving exactly that which they were asked to do. And the thing that they were asked to do was to go to Eretz Yisrael and figure out this thing with Rachav and then come back. And they did exactly what they were told. Which means that what was their identity during that mission? Only that which Moshe and then Yehoshua had instructed. Which meant, and this is essential to understand, that they were impervious to the tumah outside of them. Because their identity was completely internal. Their mission was completely internal. Which meant that all of the distractions around them didn't bother them, didn't interest them. It wasn't chashiv to them. And if that is the case, so then referring to them as potters, as people dealing in earthenware, says the Chidush Arim, is exactly what the Medrash is explaining here. They were here mission-driven. They lived in accordance with those great and lofty goals of whatever Yehoshua told them. Now, what was the thing that they needed to do? And we spent some time on this last week, and I want to show this to you inside of Hashem Yishmuel, Parshas Vayechi. The beginning of this, here's my Tanakh. the beginning of this mission starts with Vayishlach Yehoshua ben Nun min Hashitim. Yehoshua ben Nun sends min Hashitim. Now, this phrase of min Hashitim is peculiar because the area that they are in on the other side of the Jordan is big. They were just in the area of Sichon and Og. But Bedavka, the Navi, Yehoshua, points out, I'm sending min Hashitim, from the Shittim. Why? What event just happened in the place called Shittim? What just happened?
Zimri Pinchas slew Zimri.
Right, Pinchas kills Zimri. Because Moav and Midian are trying to figure out how to deal with this thing called the Jewish people. Bilam failed. So he makes the suggestion to send Midianite girls to entice the Jewish people. Because their God hates licentiousness, hates immorality. Go and send these girls, you'll see it'll work. Taka, it works. Taka, it works. Hashem gets very upset with the Jewish people for falling prey to the seduction of the Midianite girls. And there is a plague that spreads throughout the Machaneh. And Zimri takes this Midianite princess, Zimri from Shevet Shimon, takes a Midianite princess into his tent. There he begins to get intimate with her. When Pinchas walks in with a spear in his hand, executes both of them. From this event, Vayishlach Yehoshua ben Nun min Hashitim. Yehoshua ben Nun sends these two spies min Hashitim. Let's understand this. Says the Shem Yishmael. He says, Me'ata Yuvan HaKosov, now we'll understand the pasuk, which he's talking about in Parshas Vayechi. This is the bracha that Yaakov gives to Shimon and Levi. What's the bracha that Yaakov gives to Shimon and Levi? No. Shimon v'Levi achim klei chamas mecheresem. Shimon and Levi are brothers. They're very destructive. Ibapam hargu ish. Who's the shar? Yosef. With their anger fled, they killed a person. Virtzonam akrushar, and with their will they uprooted an ox. Who's the person? Who's the ox? Me'ata yuvan hakosov ki shaper hu nisinas tam al ma'ase Zimri. This is all about Zimri. Dine kvar kasavnu de l'shem shamayim niskave. Zimri was a Nasi of the Jewish people. He was not planning on sinning that day. He was being mechaven l'shem shamayim. He wanted to do the right thing. V'hainu d'tchilas hakavana haya lo lischaver ba chas v'shalom. He was not planning on sleeping with her. What was he attempting to do? To not sleep with her. Ela ke'en Pinchas v'Kalev sheba'u beis Rachav hazayna. Shehaya tumas hey Ravas hamehuma v'chola omer Rachav miyad nikri. We're not going to explain all of that right now. What he was planning to do was exactly what Kalev and Pinchas did. V'kasva mekubalim, and the mekubalim write, Shayasa Lilis har Risha, that Rachav is identified with none other than Lilis. In English, Lilith. We're going to have to discuss who that person is. Af bevayim bevesa b'kedusha yisera, but when they came into a home with tremendous kedusha, shebahem nimtaka v'gayra v'nasva Yehoshua, that when they entered into her home, she converted to Judaism and she became married to Yehoshua. V'kol kach hayachofet Zimri na'asais shari be'emes achar kamadoris nitkana v'nasva Rabbi Akiva. So much was Zimri's desire to fix this issue. He wanted to do what Pinchas and Kalev achieved, that from Zimri, later on, becomes Rabbi Akiva. Somehow, from that union, comes out Rabbi Akiva, and that's not for now. Meaning, Hashem Shmuel is adding this to show that he very much wanted to do the right thing. But because Zimri inside of him still had a little bit of that gaiva, a little bit of that, look at me, look at what I can do, look at how great I can be, which he had inherited from his Alta Zaydi, Shimon, who went and killed the whole city of Shechem. Nitfas Bereshus HaKishuv Kanal Ad Shitimi Atzmei Ba Venerag. He fell into all of the temptations of the world until he ended up getting killed. Aval ilmale Ma'aseh Shechem haya Seichel Zimri Oleg Kahogen. If not for the story of Shechem, he would have achieved what he achieved by Yanaseh Tikkun Gadol, and he would have been able to succeed marvelously. Ubevadei Koicho Shel Yaakov haya Nami Messiah Lahem, and Yaakov would have helped. V'loi b'achas v'shalom v'dei tuma rak nitkana ke'ein Rachav Kanal. He would have been able to fix up like Rachav did, like what was done with Rachav. Means as follows, and let's translate this into simple terms. There's a lot here. We'll say very pashtus on our level. When Zimri engages with this particular temptation, his desperate desire is to be able to say no, like we discussed last week. What is stopping him from the ability to say no is that embedded within him is still a sense of, look at me, I can be a guy with a guy, a little bit, tiny bit. I'm going to be the guy that's going to do this. I'm going to vanquish the Yetzer Hara. I'm going to stare in the face of immorality and temptation, and I'm going to say, I can hold back. And that, my dear friends, is the opposite of what Kalev and Pinchas did as the two shlichim of Yehoshua. Because Kalev and Pinchas did not go in with an identity of their own. They went in, and they're unnamed in the parak, because their identity is shlichim of Yehoshua. We're there to do what Yehoshua wants us to do. We're not there to have our own identity. We're not there to embody our own mission and vision and statement. We are there to do exactly what Yehoshua wants us to do, no more, no less. They were mission driven, and in that way that their mission was, it's not me, it's not about me, it's about my mission. If one is living in accordance with a mission, says the Shem Shmuel, then you can be matzliach here. If there is a higher order of value than just who I am and look at how cool I am, look at what I can achieve, so that's when this becomes possible. That's when all of this becomes possible. The ability to say no to temptation. Now, we'll explain even further just on the simple passive levels that of the world that we live in now. So from the angle of, so some of the Chavri have been reading about this and learning about this, in the world of habit formation. So one of the greatest steps that a person can do to create a healthy habit, or to stop living with an unhealthy habit, is to create a sense of mission and accountability. I want to achieve something, and I have accountability to someone. So it becomes much easier to say no to temptation when there is accountability and a mission. That's how you say no to temptation. That's how you say no to Yetzer Haras. Zimri walks into that tent, says the Shem Shmuel, saying, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the hero. Oh, you're going to be the hero? No, you're not. It's the face off against the temptations of the world, saying, I can do whatever I want. This is like the addict that says, I can quit when I want. Everybody knows what that means. It means I'm trying to preserve my own bravado, my own identity, my own sense of self. But practically speaking, I have no idea how to do this. There's no accountability and there's no mission. Yehoshua's Meraglim are there with a mission. Mission driven, they are malachim, they are klei cheres. What they are not embodying is gaiva, saying, I can do this all myself. Now, do we have time for this? Okay, we'll do a little bit. A little bit. I mentioned to you in passing that these two zonos, that Rachav Hazona comes back again in Sefer Malach, where those two women come in front of Shlomo HaMelech. What we're going to see now from the Shloah Kodesh in Parshas Kiseitze, we're not going to explain to its fullest extent, not even nearly to its fullest extent. But I share this with you because, one, it's fun to know that there are people in the world that know much more than us. And two, because there's something very practical and will help us in understanding this parak and will help us in understanding life. Says the Shloah Kodesh as follows. He says, V'ata avar soida inyan ba'arichos, I'll explain to you at great length. And this is like, it goes on for pages and pages on this inyan. We're going to see a page from here, a little bit from Parshas B'Shalach. He says, V'aktim l'cha ma shekasav b'sefer Kol B'achim. Sefer Kol B'achim is one of the Mekubalim that the Shloah quotes to a decent extent, generation before him. Pasuk says in Eicha, Nashim b'Tzion inu. Women were wailing in Tzion. It's the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. This is what he explains. Ita bezayr, heim shtei ishos hazima. Halo heima lilis umachlas bas yishma. The women that are wailing in Tzion are none other than Lilis and Machlas bas Yishma. These two female demons of Lilis and Machlas. Okay, this is getting Levitic. Who are these entities? V'kasva mekubalim shelilis holchim ima taf pei kita shel malach chavala keminyan Lilis. Lilis has a whole crew coming with her. I think today they call that a squad. Yes? Squad that's coming with Lilis. She comes in, she cries and wails, and all of them they answer after her. And she has, that's 478. In her squad, the Gematria of Machlas. These numbers we're not going to touch now. V'kulan mechalilos b'chalilim, and all of them are mechalilos. B'chalilim, they're all playing instruments. Elu me yalalim kishma lilis, ve'elu mechalim mechalis kishma machlas. The Lilis squad are crying and whining and moaning like Lilith, and the Machlas squad are celebrating, they're making Lebedik like Machlas. These groups of women never meet each other. Never meet each other. And they are fighting a tremendous battle between them. Except for Yom Kippur, where they get together. And while they're fighting it out, the Jewish people can make our case in front of Hashem, and they leave us alone. Who are these Lilin and Machlin? So before we explain who they are, says the Shlah, a couple lines down. When Yehoshua wants to conquer the land of Israel, two men came in front of Yehoshua to assist in the mission. And this is, Arab Chaim Vital explains, Vayishlach Yehoshua bin Nun min Hashitim shnaim anashim meraglim cheresh lemar. He sent from the Shittim shnaim anashim meraglim. What does it mean, shnaim anashim meraglim? It could say shnei meraglim, or shnei anashim, or meraglim shnaim. What is shnei anashim meraglim? That there were shnei anashim and meraglim. These two anashim are the male counterparts of Lilith and Machlas, says the Shlah. Now, we're not going to discuss all of the details of what does it mean, masculine and feminine, in the world of Kabbalah and Machshava. Let's just understand for a moment that when Chazal, when suddenly in the world of Kabbalah speak about male and female, there are many pieces to it. In this instance, what we'll focus on just for a moment is that which is female is that which is practical and real, and that which is male is that which is theoretical and philosophical. There are practical realities of Lilith and Machlas, and then there are philosophical, theological realities called Lilith and Machlas. And when Yehoshua wants to enter into Eretz Yisrael, even before he enters, the philosophical, theoretical concepts of Lilith and Machlas already have fallen. The practical world of Lilith and Machlas has not. What is Lilith and Machlas? So for this, you need the Shlah in Beshach. He writes as follows. Says the Hainu Na'achlia Lilis who besigufim v'tanisim v'tzar b'leiv v'hachna. Dealing with Lilith, to vanquish Lilith, one needs fasting, v'tzar b'leiv, pain, and hachna, and submission, humility. With tefillah shari d'mais, and to daven with tears in front of Hashem. Va'az nichnas lilis, and then lilis can be vanquished. Ulachnia es machlas shehi besimcha shel mitzvah. The way of vanquishing machlas is with the simcha of a mitzvah. Lismach b'mitzvahs v'lismach b'shabbos v'yom tovim v'lesameach aniyim v'chas v'kala. Is to celebrate at Shabbos and Yantif and at weddings. Lismach b'yedias habeireh u'v'hasagas k'tzas misad esav, and to enjoy knowledge of Hashem and to appreciate a little bit of His secrets. V'yedias shmeisav baruch hu b'tfilah, to know the names of Hashem in tefillah. There are two klipos, shells, extraneous things to our mission in the world. One is called lilis, and one is called machlas. Lilis, we'll say it in simple language, is the temptation to do the wrong thing that comes as a result of worthlessness. And machlas, the temptation of machlas, is to engage in doing the wrong thing because of passion and desire. There are two reasons that a person does an avera. Either because they're enticed, or because they don't care. You see this a lot. A person will engage in doing the wrong thing, basically, I don't know, driving in the middle of Yom Kippur to get a cheeseburger at McDonald's, right? So a person has a desire to do that, falls prey to that desire. That's called machlas. I'm fired up so much by a desire to do the wrong thing. I want to do something wrong. I want to eat that thing because it's delicious. That's called machlas. But then there's a feeling that comes afterwards, which is, so what? So even if I don't really feel that deep desire to go and eat a cheeseburger, doesn't make a difference. I'm already a bad guy. I've already fallen prey to that temptation. What's the point in trying now? That's called lilis. There are yetzaharas that fire us up, and there are yetzaharas that cool us down. Says the Shla, and in order to balance that out, in order to deal with lilis, that desire of worthlessness within a person, there is a place for that in Yiddishkeit. And that is to stand in front of Hashem with humility, to stand in front of Hashem with acknowledgement of who we are and where we come from and our smallness and our vulnerability. And then there is a whole world of temptation of machlas, where I want to get excited, I want to get fired up about something. Yeah, there's place for that too in Yiddishkeit. And that's called Simchas Chassan V'Kala. Go dance at a wedding, go have a Simchas Torah, go celebrate Shabbos and Yantif, go have a great time. That is machlas. Now, in order to enter into Eretz Yisrael, means that we are going to be living with those two emotions, those emotions of humility in their right place, and those feelings of elation in their right place. That's what it means to conquer Eretz Yisrael, to create a Jewish society. It means to create a place, a society, where both of these basic human emotions find their place in Kedusha. Now, that's in practicalities. In theory, in theoreticals, there are very dark philosophies of nihilism. Nothing is worth it, nothing is meaningful. That's the philosophy of lilis. And then there's hedonism as a philosophy, which is the philosophy of machlas. Those philosophies already fell prey to the Jewish people before we entered into Eretz Yisrael. Nobody believed that. Nobody believed in radical nihilism, that everything I do is worthless and meaningless. No, they believed that life was meaningful. And nobody believed that eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. Nobody believed that. But they believed in Torah's Moshe. But there's still Yetzaharas in the world. Right? There's still Yetzaharas in the world. There are Yetzaharas of sometimes I feel about myself. So I don't care to do mitzvahs. And I'll do averos because I don't care. And sometimes I'm just tempted by something. I don't believe in it as a philosophy, but I'm tempted by it. That's a temptation. Now, the last time that the Jewish people attempted to deal with this was in Shittim. And they failed at it. The philosophy was brought down. They understood this isn't right. But like, can we live in a world with temptation and create a society that is meaningful and bring it into the world to do the right thing and build a Eretz Yisrael with Kedusha and Tahara, where we can enjoy the world and take part in it and create a Medinat Yisrael according to Torah and mitzvahs? I don't know. Nobody's ever done that before. Nobody has ever come with that philosophy of we know what's right and we know what's wrong and we're going to do the right thing and we're not going to do the wrong thing. We are going to live in accordance with the value system of Moshe and Har Sinai and Torah Kedosha. We're going to live that. We're going to be part of it. It's going to be part of our kishkas. Can we do that? Can we live that? Can we make that a part of our lives? I don't know. I don't know if that's possible. So Yehoshua sends Meraglim, sends Shlichim, because Shlicha shall Adam Kamaisai, on behalf of himself, on behalf of the Jewish people, to go to the place with the deepest temptation and say, well, we're going as a Klicharis. We have our mission deeply embedded inside of us, and we are impervious to the tumah around us. No problem. We can face this and deal with it, and not fall prey to it. Now, I'll share with you two more things. In the Talmud Yaakov Yosef, the Talmud of the Baal Shem, quotes from the Nachlas Yehoshua of Krakow. Also says, this is talking about the produce, the bikurim and truma that a Jew has to bring to the Kohen and to the Beis HaMikdash. So the pasuk says in Shmos, "Va'az b'chor banecha titen li," and then your firstborn child belongs to Hashem. That's why we do opinion abed. It says, "Ki meleacha elu bikurim shayim meviyim b'simcha la'achnia machlas." Once they got to Eretz Yisrael, they would bring the bikurim, their first fruit, b'simcha, with great joy, to say, yeah, there's a place for joy in Judaism. Of course, there's a place for joyfulness. V'dimacha, which Chazal understand is truma, also means tears. Bring your tears. Shem la'achnia lilis shalai yechtel b'shechva zara v'az b'char banecha tipur rishona iyali. We'll talk about the shechva zara piece we mentioned last time. We'll talk about it again in the future. But bring your joy and tears in Eretz Yisrael. There is a place for joy in Yiddishkeit, for the emotions of joy. There's a place for the emotions of tears. All of that is part of what it means to be a Yid living in Eretz Yisrael. That is our shlichus. That is Yehoshua's shlichus. That is Kalev and Pinchas's shlichus. That is the purpose of sending them from the Shittim to Rachav. That is the mission. But it's not just their mission. This is the last thing that I want to show you. This, we'll have to talk about it. This is Rav Kook. The pasuk says, this. In fact, I'll show this to you inside of the Chumash because it's worth seeing this. Mamish inside. The pasuk is in Bereshis at the end of Perek Gimel. After Adam and Chava sin, pasuk says, "Vayishalcheu Hashem Elokim min Gan Eden." Hashem Elokim sends them mi Gan Eden, from Gan Eden, la'avodas ha'adama asher lukach misham, to work the land from which asher lukach misham, from which he was taken. He sends him out from Gan Eden to work the land from which he was taken. What's pshat in that pasuk? Which land is he working? And then the pasuk says, "Vayigarish Adam." Then he exiles man. Vayashken mikedem legan Eden, and he dwells mikedem legan Eden. Vayashken mikedem legan Eden sakrubim. There's a lot acherev amisapeches lishmar es derech etz hachaim, and Hashem installs kruvim and a flaming double-sided sword to guard the way of the Eitz HaChaim. Now, we could spend like another 25 hours just trying to understand these two psukim. But I want to show you a moment. Before that, the Ibn Ezra, who says, Vayishalchehu, sent him, says he sent him, he exiled him. V'hu. This was denigrating. Come on, shlach me al panai, like get out of my face. V'lo kasher amar chacham gadol Sfardi, not like one great Spanish Jew said, shuloshin kovod. That it was honorable. It was an honorable discharge. He sent him as a shliach. Says the Malbim, yeah, that's absolutely what happened. That's absolutely what happened. This was a shlichus. It was an exile, but it was also a shlichus. It's both. What was the shlichus and where was it to? Watch this. Because that's what we were talking about. The shlichus. What's the shlichus? Listen to this. It's going to blow your mind. Hashem sent him from Gan Eden. It says, there were a number of roads in front of Adam when he left Gan Eden. There was the ways of the four rivers, the narrows that came from Eden. As we've explained about the mountain. It says, 3 of them are bad. Don't go there. V'anar haravi hu pras. Hasoidev is Eretz Yisrael, who are toiv mehem. But the 4th river, the Nahar Pras, follow that river. That will take you to Eretz Yisrael. Hashem sends Adam out of Gan Eden to where? Israel. He sends him to Eretz Yisrael. V'shalchai Hashem b'shlichus. He sends him with shlichus. La'avodas ha'adama, to work that land, asher lukach misham, from whence he was taken. Sheyelech derech nahar pras el Eretz Yisrael. He should follow the way of the river Euphrates to Eretz Yisrael. Shemisham nivra, because it is from there that Adam Harishon was created. Chazal explained, Shemimacham kaparas nivra, that from the place of his atonement he was created. The Rambam paskins that in the Mishnah Torah, in Hilchos Beis HaBechira, and the Hilchos Mizbeach, that the place of the Mizbeach stands in the on top of the earth from which Adam Harishon was created. Ki nivra me'admas Har HaMoriah, he was created from the ground of Har HaMoriah, Makam Mizbech, the place of Mizbech, Vehusham Achar כך Began Eden, he was placed up there in Gan Eden, Veshalchu Shenis L'Mekayim Harishon Shemisham Nivra, and now he is sent to return to that place. He's sent to return to that place, to engage with Eretz Yisrael and to make that a place of Kedusha. My dear friends, this was the shlichus of these two Meraglim. Go and find the place of Kedusha in Eretz Yisrael. Go to Eretz Yisrael, because what we are about to do, says Yehoshua, is what Adam Harishon was supposed to do. We are finally fulfilling that mission. We understand that all of the dark philosophies of the ancient world, and they've come back, some of them in the modern world, we already understand that they are gone. Practically, everybody's got to figure out how to deal with temptation and find appropriate places for their joy and tears in Kedusha and in Yiddishkeit. And that's the mission. That is the mission. Now, they're not going to finish this mission. This mission is not finished in the days of Yehoshua, because Yehoshua is still Mashiach ben Yosef. This mission is completed in the days of Mashiach ben David, Shlomo Melech, a few hundred years later. The philosophies, the Anoshim, already fell prey to Yehoshua. But in the fullest extent, the practicalities are only dealt with when there's a Beis HaMikdash, when the Jewish people are at peace, when we can live a Jewish culture as Shlomo Melech creates. But that's the mission, is to get from a place where we understand what is right and what is true and what is good and what is real, and then begin to live that. And that, my dear friends, is the process of conquering Eretz Canaan. Is building that place, is building that society, building that culture. Be'ez Hashem, we will go weiter next week. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.